Did you ever had an angry shark encounter?
As we tell to the guest, we have vegetarian sharks in Maldives. I don't think any animal down there will just come and attack you. I remember some guests come and say, they are doing the dive after seeing this movie, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. I remember there were three middle-aged ladies from India. They were all above 60, and those three came to our dive center and they said they have seen this movie and they are traveling around the world and they want to do a dive. And they did the dive and they really enjoyed this the dive.
So you became the first PADI instructor. How does it felt when you got to know that, okay, I am the first female in the Maldives to become the PADI instructor?
Women are great in teaching. We have so much patience.
Cheers.
And I think we are good in multitasking. If you are choosing diving as a career, it's a great job. In 2 months, you could earn your dive master license. 99% of visitors that come to the Maldives are divers. And 2 months, if you are studying in a college, it takes 3 years to earn a degree. In 2 months, you could be getting paid with this license, You have to understand this is a very responsible job. Very responsible job. Some days we go diving and there are days I come out of the water without seeing a fish.
So how did opening your own diving center came into your mind? I truly remember when I first asked somebody at what price can I do it for you, and when she told me the price, I confirmed thrice. Diving center, the name Moodhubulha, how did it came to be? What does it mean? It was inaugurated on International Women's Day.
Yeah. If we can't educate our younger generation, the future is lost. The youngest diver would be my daughter. She started diving at 3.
But somewhere, do you think in many parts of the Maldives, people don't protect it but they market it?
When someone comes for snorkeling or diving, they will only want that photograph in the middle of the sharks. People are starting to less appreciate the beauty beneath. I remember there was a discovery diver recently who came and he's asking, can I take a picture with the tiger shark? And this is his first dive. And I told him it took me 20 years to see my first tiger shark. Now if you go Friday to Willingili, for example, you can see many people are going. You see everyone is walking on top of the reef because majority are not aware coral is an animal even. Yeah, so education is important. We all protect what we love. Don't play with the nature. You change something with the nature, it will come back to you. It's simple.
How tiny was the tiniest creature you have seen underwater? Like, there are seasons on Earth, spring, winters, monsoon. Are there seasons underwater as well?
I'm a fan of sharks, but I like to see sharks in the wild. I don't like to see the feeding sharks, but I like to see the dives in the channels where there is flow and then the sharks. That is something, and you need to have experience to see this kind of dive. I remember when we were initially diving, we had 5 whale sharks with manta rays, and it was only us. If I see a whale shark here, we immediately put somewhere, and then every island have small dinghies. Every guest house have a dinghy. There are so many small boats going around, and you call, and then 100 boats immediately come here, and I want my guests to see it from the closest, so I don't respect to the other boats. You are trying to go over the whale shark.
How deep have you been in meters when it comes to diving? Sound travels 4 times faster than on Earth underwater, if I'm not wrong. And you sense something before is happening, and you can hear the sounds from far away. Is it true? Also the color disappears slowly, first the red and then the yellow, then the orange. Is it true?
I like to actually promote education tourism.
The divers are exploring something that is more unknown than the space. Do you agree with that? Divers become more spiritual and attentive underwater. oh my god, I almost forgot that I'm in land right now. It feels I'm looking at the ocean and you are the shark that rules it. And I'm very proud to say the female shark.
Oh, okay.
So very happy that you're here today. So the first thing I want to ask you or start the conversation with is, when did the ocean stopped being just water for you? Like,
I think I don't think I remember a day without the ocean. I felt like I was born in the water because I come from an island up in the north, very small island, and my dad is a fisherman, and my mom is also a water person. So I remember as a kid we spent a lot of time in the water. I don't remember a day I cannot swim. I think when our dad go fishing, he always takes the kids along with him, and he would just put a buoy on us and then just throw us into the ocean while he does his fishing. So for us, ocean was probably one of the most friendly place, and more friendlier than the land itself, I think, as we grew up.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you mentioned that, of course, the ocean covers 70% of the earth. The earth doesn't cover the oceans. And, we have just explored 5% of it, I think, and not even 5%. What do you think about that?
Well, I will. Well, around the world, 70%. But if you talk about Maldives, it's only 1% land,
Yeah,
and
true.
99% is beneath. The beauty of the Maldives, as I say, is beneath the waters, and I think only a few have seen it. And I encourage, actually, my goal is that more people go and visit and see the beauty beneath the water. Yeah.
So, at what age, was your first diving?
Actually, when I studied in school, diving was never in my head. I finished school, I worked at a government fisheries ministry. Even then, I didn't have diving in my head, and it was just I was a water person, but we never have those kind of opportunities back then. Like becoming a diver would be a very alien thing, especially as a female. Those days were not. We didn't have so much opportunity to get into the diving industry. So I was fortunate to get a chance to work at a dive center in Male. One of my uncles opened up a dive center, and I worked there as a receptionist. And the lady, the Japanese instructor, female instructor, was working there with another Maldivian guy, and she took me for the first dive. And I was actually kind of looking at her as a role model. I thought the way she teach people, the way she's in the water. On my first dive, I decided to become an instructor, and I think I was 17 or 16 back then.
Wow,
Yeah.
literally on your first dive, you decided that you
Yes.
want to become very less people actually, do that. So I want to ask, as you said that before, back then, coming from that era, and being a woman, so becoming a diving instructor on the time where actually women were told what to do on earth, you chose a space underwater to be safe. So was there at all of becoming a scuba diver at that time? Was there some
Well,
criticisms?
When I came out of that dive, I checked was there any female Maldivian instructors, and there was no female instructors, and that's the thing. And I always like to do new things. I like to do new things. Even in school, I was famous for doing those kind of stuff. So even in school, I was named as a tomboy because I was doing those kind of crazy things, I think. So becoming a diving instructor was, I come from a family of 6 kids where I'm the eldest, and not from a very well-off family. So I was the eldest who had to look after the family. So I had other things in head as well. For example, what would give me a better income to look after the siblings. So that was one thought in my head. Back then, when I initially started at the fisheries ministry, we were earning basically nothing. So I was not even a desk person. So I was looking something that I can enjoy and at the same time earn and have a good working environment. That was what I was looking for. And when I see this Japanese instructor, it inspired me. She inspired me actually to become somebody like her.
Wow.
So that is how I think I got into the diving. And I knew those days I see always foreign, European instructors working, female instructors working in resort. And I'm thinking, why can't a local become one? So I think that is how it came into my head. When I did my first dive, I realized it was so easy to dive, and why aren't we doing it? And fortunately, I have great parents, I think. They are not parents who will say, don't do it, but they would say, go and try it, and if you like it, go for it. I think that made a very big difference in my shoes in this career.
Yeah, so more than the criticisms, you got the blessings and
Yeah,
support,
yeah.
and that's why. So yeah, talking about that, being the female, so you became the first PADI instructor,
Yes.
right, and director. So that's a big thing, right? Becoming instructor in the Professional Association of Scuba Diving. So how does it felt when you got to know that, okay, I am the first female in the Maldives to become the PADI instructor?
Well, it felt very good, but I thought now I can actually bring more females out into the industry. It was more like, what could I do to increase the number of females? So when I did my instructor, and it took me a very long gap to even other females to take up diving as a career. So, like for example, coming to a podcast like this and talking about diving, how easy diving is, and it's a great career, probably the best paid job in the Maldives. I hope more girls will think about it, and that was my aim. Achieving the instructor level was a cool thing, but having that opens me the door to teach others what I love. I think that was the biggest achievement.
Yeah, and empowering women is, I think, the biggest achievement already. But being the first PADI instructor, was there a time that your achievement was more than a burden to you than an achievement?
No, achievement is an achievement. But when I did my course director about 10 years back, that was a great achievement. And I think for me, an achievement is very different to majority. For me, an achievement is when I take somebody in underwater, when I bring them out, and when I see their smile, and when they're happy about what they did. For me, that's what I call it, an achievement.
I remember doing my first scuba diving with you. So I don't know if you remember that, but I'm a person who's like the most feared person when it comes to underwater before I shifted. But trust me, when I do it, I literally can't imagine sitting here. I can only imagine seeing the underwater life and how beautiful it is, and how calmly you held my hand, you took me to the ocean, and how calmly I went deep into the ocean without even paying a big amount of money.
Yeah.
So that is something I want to tell the audience. And do you suggest like any place people of course they should come to you for the scuba diving and snorkeling? So do you suggest any kind of, there are many people who want to do the instructor course, and they want to do the certificate. So how can they go with it? The people who are looking at this podcast right now.
Trying a dive and becoming an instructor is two different things. Trying a dive, I would say, especially expats. We have a lot of expats working in the Maldives, and we even get a lot of expats coming and doing this Discover Scuba Diving, we call it.
Okay.
It's a 3-hour program where we basically give them a briefing, and then we just take them in shallow water, and we take them for a nice dive, taking some pictures and so on. And for this dive, you just have to be 10 years old minimum, and even if you have never seen the ocean before, you don't have to know swimming. All this is fine because the instructor is there with you all the time, and like the experience you had, our job is to introduce you or to show you the fascinating marine world. And I think if you spend a long time in the Maldives and leave Maldives without doing a dive, that means you have not really seen Maldives. So at least try one dive. But my advice is, if you want to do a dive, do it correctly. Do it from the right place. Because there are people, sometimes some instructors or some dive centers, very rare, but if you start with the wrong way, you could end up with a bad experience, and that might stop you from ever trying a dive. So start it with the right people. And even in Maldives, there are many dive centers, and I say go to any dive center and choose the right place and explore, or do at least one dive. And then for the second phase of question, I would say diving if you are choosing diving as a career, it's a great job. One thing is it's international. You can work anywhere around the world. True. And if you are working in the Maldives, in 2 months you could earn your dive master license. If you go, there are step-by-step process. For example, after first you have to do the open water license, which is the basic entry level. Next you do the advanced, then you do a first aid course, which is 1 day, and then you do a rescue diver level where you are learning to, how do you say, help others in need, and then you become a dive master where you are allowed to guide certified people in diving. And then the next level would be the instructor level. Instructor level, once you achieve this instructor level, dive master level is the first professional level you can function as a professional in the diving industry. And 2 months, if you are studying in a college, it takes 3 years to earn a degree. In 2 months, you could be getting paid with this license, and it's a great career because the pay is really good. You can work in, if you're looking at Maldives, there are so many resorts, liverboards. Internationally, there are many countries where you can work as a diver. So this is a great opportunity because some students are maybe academic that way, but some like to be working in this kind of practical job. But saying this, I have to say, but to get the instructor license, your PADI entry level, open water license have to be 6 months old to go for the instructor level. So you can first in 2 months become a dive master, you can gain a little bit experience, and then you should go for your instructor level. Instructor course will take roughly about 10 to 11 days, but for the rest it's about 2 months. So you can see it's a very short time frame, but you have to understand this is a very responsible job. Once you take somebody underwater, your focus has to be on these people until you safely come out of the water. You have a huge responsibility, and you have to be fit, confident, you have to sleep well, eat well, because some days we go diving and there are days I come out of the water without seeing a fish, not because there are no fish, but because we have to look after the guest we are taking, because they are our responsibility. So it's a very responsible job. But if you know how to work along with it, it's probably one of the most fun job that you can have.
Yeah, truly. I know, just going for a dive seems very interesting, but having that responsibility, because I remember when I did the diving first in some other place, I won't name it, but it was very scary because neither the training was given and then you have to sign a form, and it was really scary after going, and I just came, I just did the actions and I came up immediately. But when I went with you, it was so safe, and after that I literally tell to everyone. So, I just look at your t-shirt, you're wearing the diving center t-shirt like Moodhubulha. I'm sorry for the pronunciation because that's in your proper language, but you worked in the resort for almost 20 years, right? So how did opening your own diving center came into your mind?
I was working in the resorts. At 18, we were already working in the resorts as dive instructors, and then I actually was working very hard, I have to say. We were, those days, 99% of visitors that come to the Maldives are divers. And I remember we have to do 5-6 dives a day, every day like that. So it's a very busy job those days, and it taught me so much. And then I managed to move up in the ladder up to, when I stopped, I was working as an area marine recreation manager at an international hotel chain, managing 5 dive centers and water sports. So it was a huge responsibility, but it took me 20 years to grow up to that level, and that I believe that is also because I was passionate about what I was doing. I was learning so much everywhere. Even now I'm learning with every dive. So I believe if you have to be passionate about what you do to grow in the industry. And the reason I left the tourism industry was with my first daughter. I was pregnant, and I remember I quit the job after my delivery. I decided that it's time for me to, because I wanted my daughter to grow up with me. So that's the day I left the resort. And then my husband is also a dive instructor. We both decided that it's time we start something by ourselves so that our kids also can be with us. We can have a family. It's work-life balance. And also the main target was, even back then, there was no opportunities for the locals or the people living in this area to come and try a dive, because we can't afford to go to a resort and do a discover scuba diving. If you go to a resort to do a discover scuba diving, you are spending almost $200+ to do the same dive you would do as I expect here. So it's very less compared to what you are going to pay, and this gives chance for more people to try diving. If it is extremely expensive, sometimes people will hesitate to come. So we try to keep it in an affordable price, but we want to give them a good experience, something that will stay with them forever. Yeah.
I truly remember when I first asked somebody at what price can I do it for you, and when she told me the price, I confirmed thrice, because 10 times more we have paid in the resort. So do you want to tell the audience at what price they can come to you to do the diving?
Okay. For the expats, it's 550 rupiah, but for the tourists who visit, it's $65. Still, if you go to the resort, it's $65 is nothing, because we are even giving photo videography as part of the package, and 2 person to 1 instructor, this ratio we maintain it. So we try to give a good experience. You are doing exactly the same thing, but the only difference is you are doing it locally.
I think in resort price you are giving basically 1/4 of the price of it. So 5 people can do in that price with you. So
as I say, if you go and have a coffee with 2 friends, you pay the same amount. So why not do something that is
a life-changing bucket list? Definitely. Yeah. So coming back to your diving center, the name Moodhubulha, how did it came to be? What does it mean?
Moodhubulha actually is a slang term used in the locally when someone goes to the ocean too often. Your parents call you a Moodhubulha. So my mom called me a Moodhubulha because I'm always in the water, and she's called it. It's like, it's a term used in Maldivians in the local language. If you translate it word to word, Moodhu means ocean, Bula is cat. But it has nothing to do. It's saying simply that you are spending too long in the water. And that's how the name comes in. And I wanted to have a local name. Initially, when I opened the center, many were saying, hey, when you give this name, expats or people coming from abroad will find it difficult to say it. I said, I don't care. I want them to say this word.
Yeah, and we literally don't care when you are here. We just go to the place. It's Modhu. So basically, Moodhubulha is like bookworm, we say, like ocean worm, like ocean cat. It's like that, right? And also one fact I want to highlight here, that it was inaugurated on International Women's Day.
Yeah.
So your slogan was always invest in women and accelerate the progresses. Yeah. So was it always in your mind that I need to, bring more women into this field?
Yeah, it's always there. I nothing against men, but I think women are great in teaching. We have so much patience.
Cheers.
I think it's something women can do. I think most parents or most women believe they don't have this kind of power, but they all have it. It's just in there. They need to come out and show it. So, it's like those days, those days, if you go to a hotel, like a normal cafeteria, if we go, it's all men, they are always looking at you. But we go in there because the short eats are cheaper, and why can't we go in there? If we are going, we have to go to a fancy restaurant. So I wanted that to change. So women also can work in these kind of professions. But sometimes they say, like diving, for example, when you have children, you can't do it, but you work along the way, like I did. You work sometime in the industry, you earn money, and when the right times comes, you can settle down with the family. And you don't always have to be a diving instructor. You can grow up in the ladder. You can be a manager. That doesn't mean you have to go in the water every day.
Yeah, true.
So you can still work in the field, but in a different way.
True.
So this is not a profession women can't do.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to see from all our instructor course, I have nearly every time we had 1 or 2 girls coming out locally.
Wow.
So that is a big achievement for me, and I love to see locals working in this field.
Yeah, truly. Like I've seen you have attracted a lot of women, not even locals, but I would say even my expat friends, they come to you, and you're the first person we refer to. So definitely. And talking about the toll on the woman or doing this thing, we always have to speak up and prove it to the world that we can do it. So was there a time that you thought I have to leave this, or it was too much criticized, or
Well, when I initially moved to a management position, I was not working at that resort, but the owner, actually one of the senior directors, somehow he knew my potential. And I was working in a very small dive center in Mali, and he came and asked me. He said, Mr. Aziz, he said, I should come and work in this position. It was a huge position. It's like a management position in an international hotel chain. And I first said, no, I don't think I'm suitable. But he said, you can do this. So I went there, and then initially, because there were a lot of staff who have been there for a long time, maybe they were a bit uneasy when I walked in. But I'm a person who can take criticism. I don't take it against me, but I try to work along the flow. And I'm happy that after 8 years, when I left that same job, people were sad when I left. So I think I have changed something there. So there was a criticism, but when I work in the industry, I try to do. I don't like to say men and women are equal, but I like to say we are different. We all have our own good qualities, and we work our way, different ways to work. I think we are good in multitasking.
Yeah, I was just about, that's a telepathy, I was just about to say, I have seen in every field, nothing against men, let me say, but women are best in multitasking. That's what we have realized. So yes, definitely.
I worked with almost 30 men in a dive center when I first walked in, and I have to say I had such a good relationship with them. They were always supportive when I worked, and so they were not working against me. They were helping me out, but I was also making sure that whatever they do, I also do it. So it was a team effort, and I find it very easy to work with men. I think they have put a lot of help to grow me in the career.
Great. And also, talking in that sector, like, you have a different love for kids, and you're promoting lot of kids, and I have seen a picture of you are taking the smallest kid in the ocean. So what is your motive behind this, and at what is the smallest age you have taken him or her for diving?
I think if we can't educate our younger generation, the future is lost.
Yeah.
So instead of going for the elder people, maybe I try to focus, because for me diving is education. Diving is education. Everybody talks about the environment, protecting the coral. They do all these studies inside the classroom, and it will not change anything, I think, unless they really go into the ocean and see it. I remember there was this government initiative program called Farukoe from the Education Ministry, where every child has to snorkel once before that year. This was a government initiated program. But I remember high school kids that I took, there were kids who have never been to the ocean, Maldivian kids. And that said, we are talking about 16-year-olds from the Maldives who have never been to the ocean. And they are studying marine science. And how can that work? It's not correct. Because if you don't go to the marine world, if you don't see the coral, you don't know how to protect it, and you don't build that love for it. I think if you don't fall in love with the ocean, how can you protect it? You have to first start to appreciate, you have to understand, and then you will put the effort to protect it. We all protect what we love. You see how many people look after pets, cats. They do everything for them. So similarly, it has to come like this. So taking kids is probably the most enjoyable thing that I like to do. And when you teach kids at that young age, they don't have all these fears. When you are an adult, you have too many things going in your head. But as kids, that is not there yet. So it's easier to introduce and get them interested in the marine thing. And I think that's why. And probably the youngest diver would be my daughter. She started diving at 3. Which is not allowed, because 8 years you need to be, but my daughter is my liability, so I just keep a little bit. So that is different. But the youngest age, standard wise, it's 8 years.
8 years to me is still, the youngest, and 3 is something that gave me goosebumps
Yeah.
right now.
She's always
So-
behind me. So when I work in the confined water in the lagoon, she would always come along. So
Okay.
that is.
Talking and listening that your daughter did the diving at age 3, I think many women and children would get inspired by this. And you talked about protecting the ocean, right? But somewhere, do you think in many parts of the Maldives people don't protect it but they market it?
Yes. I think it's around the world. It's not only Maldives. I think around the world. My opinion is now environment is sometimes used as a marketing tool, unfortunately. But there are only a few who will genuinely care. We go into the ocean every day. We see the reef every day. And I have been professionally working now almost 30 plus years in the field, diving every day. Unless for my maternity period, I don't think I ever stopped diving. So I've been diving every day. And I can see the change. I mean, especially even, development is also not good for the environment. All this reclamation is damaging. And maybe we are planting corals and so on, but I don't think it will compete with the nature, And there are few things, personally, I don't like. For example, nowadays when someone comes for snorkeling or diving, they will only want that photograph in the middle of the sharks. People are starting to less appreciate the beauty beneath. I remember there was a discovery diver recently who came and he's asking, can I take a picture with the tiger shark? And this is his first dive. I told him it took me 20 years to see my first tiger shark.
Wow.
So that is a very unique experience. And now what is happening is sometimes when you feed and when you take people just for the sake of a picture, I think that's ruining the image. People are slowly starting to ignore the real beauty. All these fish, if you look at every single fish down there, it has a different pattern. It looks beautiful, and there are so many beautiful small life in the water as well. But now the only thing in a newcomer's head is also sharks, turtles, stingrays. They are thinking that is the only thing that is down there, But I think we always tell, for me, the first experience has to be a safe experience.
Yeah.
We start slowly from the beach, we experience this, we go diving, we take diving. But if you really like to see the sharks and so on, get certified, get a license. It takes only 4 days for you to earn the first license. 4 mornings, you could easily get the license. And then this is a license that doesn't expire. You can internationally dive anywhere around the world with this license. Once you earn it, you just keep it with you. So what I think is, as professionals also, sometimes we are lacking responsibility now. I see sometimes young guides only focused on the camera and taking pictures instead of really showing the beauty beneath and looking after the guests. So these things needs to be changed. I remember when we initially started, if somebody touch a coral, it's a big thing. We even come and we complain so much about this thing. We have even left the guest without diving because this person is not behaving. Because the damage he gives to the corals, it's a damage for the future. Every time you touch the coral, you are killing it. And it's a very slow process for a reef to grow. And if I, as the leading person, touch a coral, behind me there are 60 others touching every day the same coral, what will be there left to see? So I think we have to educate and create awareness and, take people in the water, go in the ocean more often to see the damage and to see the difference. Now, if you go Friday to Willingili, for example, you can see many people are going. You see everyone is walking on top of the reef because majority are not aware coral is an animal even. So education is important. I think.
Live corals, and basically it's the city for the fishes and marine life. And sad to hear that. But talking about it, what is your most favorite marine life site you have in your mind?
I think for me, Maldives is a very good dive destination. I think I have been fortunate enough to dive in many other places as well. Even this Australia, people talk so much about it, but I think Maldives is unique. One thing is, you can go to any depth, the temperature remains the same. It's 29-30 degrees. How many countries can you dive with just a t-shirt? The second thing is visibility. Even in the worst visibility, It's great visibility if you compare to any other country.
Yeah, true.
Fish life, you jump into any reef, you will be fascinated with the marine world. And we, throughout the year, we have dive sites for whale sharks, we have dive sites for manta rays. If you can't see it in this area now, they are in another area. So whole year through, you have the possibility to spot them. So that is also another thing. And our marine life, I have to say, we are fortunate to have a very rich marine life. Very rich marine life, and we should put every effort to protect what we have.
So how tiny was the tiniest creature you have seen underwater? Like,
well, they can be very small. I'm a bad person with small things, but our logo, this fish, this is called a juvenile yellow spotted boxfish, and it's like a dice. It's this size. It's
Really?
this tiny. It's like a piece of small dice.
wow.
And for me, that is the most beautiful fish in the ocean.
Oh.
In Divehi, we call it gono la gone. So
Wow. Okay,
it is
it's
a
interesting.
very beautiful fish. But when you look at social media nowadays, many small life is captured. You can see flatworms, nudibranchs, shrimps, very sad. So, and nowadays they have cameras that can capture all these things. I remember I got my first camera after probably 23 years of diving. I get to hold my first camera. Those days we don't have those GoPros and stuff. So nowadays I'm glad I didn't have it, because once the camera comes into your hand, you are forgetting about the real beauty. You are looking at everything with the camera. So even for divers, I tell them, don't get a camera initially. Do some dives, get your buoyancy right, become a good diver, and then get the camera. And this is the one way you can contribute to save the environment. Because if you don't have the right buoyancy, you take a picture, you break 100 years of growth. So if you don't have the right buoyancy, don't get a camera. We tell this to every diver who is getting certified, and they will know what we mean.
So like you talked about the temperature as well, and Maldives, many of even friends of mine ask me, when should we visit Maldives, want to do diving and want to do the snorkeling, and I tell them it's the same, it's
Yes.
the same 12 months. So I want to ask, like, there are seasons on earth, spring, winters, monsoon. Are there seasons underwater as well?
Yeah, there are some times, like for example, now this time the visibility is probably clearer than the until how do you say, until June. So there are seasons as well. There are seasons where the big fishes give birth to small life, So there are times, and sharks also. There are some times of the year with the right current you see more sharks. So it is seasonal. But the nice thing is they are kind of moving around. So if you don't see them in Mali at all, this area, maybe they are near Moodhubulha, so you have to find the right place to visit. So all year through you can visit Maldives. And now to visit Maldives, it's great because now you don't have to always go to a luxury resort anymore. Local tourism have opened up, and there are many local islands as well with affordable guest houses that you can go and stay. If you are really diver, there are 100 plus liverboards that is operated in the Maldives. Some of them go from north to south, south north. So you have so much choice now actually. So much choice to visit. Price range also, there is a huge price range. So I think now everyone can visit Maldives now. You don't have to think about this luxury 5-star resort anymore. You can choose what you like. There are family resorts. Great options, I think.
Yeah, true. And like talking about sharks, one thing that's instantly came into mind, that did you ever had an angry shark encounter?
As we tell to the guest, we have vegetarian sharks in Maldives. I don't think any animal down there will just come and attack you. Otherwise, they would have attacked me. Because I spend quite a lot of time in the ocean, and I have never encountered a bad encounter with any animal. But if you don't respect them, you will end up with a problem. Yeah, it's like you are walking on the road, and if someone come and play with your hair without telling you, they don't like it. Nobody will like it. So if you respect the animal, you have to always understand you are going to their environment, and you can't go and poke them out every time, bring them out of the hole, play with the sharks. You don't do that. We have to learn to respect. Respect is the key word here. So I don't think you will encounter any kind of danger as long as you are respecting the animal down there.
Talking about the danger, do you think that like the whale shark, that is the biggest shark in the world, if I'm not wrong, and the mantas, they're so beautiful, that is spotted in the Maldives, and the turtles, that's the rare turtles, so they are getting somewhere endangered because of the current lifestyle and because of so many people coming under the ocean.
Yeah. Now the thing is, before uh, we didn't have this social media and everything. Internet was not so easy. Now the problem is, if I see a whale shark here, we immediately put somewhere, and then every island have small dinghies. Every guest house have a dinghy. There are so many small boats going around, and you call, and then 100 boats immediately come here, and I want my guest to see it from the closest, so I don't respect to the other boats. You are trying to go over the whale shark, and there have been many incidents, because I think there are guidelines as well from the Environmental Regulation Authority. The guidelines, everything is written, but I think we have a problem in enforcing them. Everything is written, but there is no enforcement, and there have been accidents because of this, because people are really very careless, very careless in these areas. They are not careless about the divers. They just think one whale shark and maybe 100 snorkelers behind them chasing around. I remember when we were initially diving, we had 5 whale sharks with manta race, and it was only us. We have been very fortunate, because we don't have that Viber group to announce this to 100.
Yeah,
and
true.
now they have the speedboats are also now so common. You just get the call and everybody is there.
Yeah.
So yes, and I think the government is working on it, and they want to strictly put up guidelines to prevent this kind of things.
Yeah.
And we are glad. I've seen many working with the government side that they have trying to enforce these kind of guidelines.
So, like, I want to ask one thing. How deep have you been in meters when it comes to diving?
Well,
What was
what you have to understand is, if you can equalize, and if I have a tank, I can go to any depth I like. Yeah? But when you are a good diver, you are studying, you have to understand the physiology, what is going inside your body. If you know this, you have limits to dive. So I would not go beyond 30 meters, and there is a law in Maldives that states your maximum depth has to be 30 meters. And if you go beyond that, you have a problem. No insurance is giving you coverage for that, because there is a law that states that. So going deep, even a discovery diver, I tell them, don't think of the depth. It's what you see. Depth, anybody can go deep. If you can equalize, if I take you, even you can go on your discovery dive to 30 meters if I don't tell you anything. Yeah, because here you don't even feel that. So going deep should not be the aim of diving. If you are going deep, you also have to get the right training. But now, if you can see, now technical diving is becoming very popular. As you have seen, rebreathers, they have different kind of diving now coming into the market. So those who like to do deep dive, I say go and get the right training. Go and get the right training and do the dive with the right equipment. I should not be deep diving with this normal recreational gear. So if you like, I'm sure young people like to try new things and they want to see more depth, then go for it, but do it with the right training.
True. So, and I've also heard one fact about scuba diving is that sound travels 4 times faster than on Earth underwater, if I'm not wrong. And you sense something before is happening, and you can hear the sounds from far away. Is it true?
Yeah, sound travels 4 times faster because it's more denser. That's why when you are diving, if a boat even go very far from this area, you can hear the sound. And you are thinking it's coming above your head, but maybe it might be going very far because it's traveling so fast. You feel it as if it's coming from very close range.
Yeah.
Yes.
So have you ever run out of oxygen underwater?
I'm actually a very careful diver, I have to say. I try to stick, and my students are also, I'm always yelling at them if they are not checking the air. So I have, with experience now, it's very rare for me to go into zero unless I have a really difficult dive and if I have to really do a difficult task. But there are very good rules in diving. They say there is a 50 bar margin where you have to stop the dive. And with 50 bar, It's like you are driving a motorbike, you come to the reserves, and if you push those limits, you normally end up with the decode, with no air. So with 50 bar angle, you have to finish the dive. So I try not to, I have, with 50 bar, I try to finish my dive because I want others also to follow these procedures. I don't want to be a bad role model to anyone.
So, yeah, and there's so many interesting facts about diving. Like of course, you said that you being the safest divers, but there are some things like the blood goes into your brain, and there's a euphoric effect, and things happens like this. So, do you think people are more?
That is actually when you do, that is why you have to do your basic. When you start diving, you have to get the license and you have to study properly because this will teach them why you are getting this narcotic effect, why you are seeing mermaids in underwater that are not there. It's a narcotic effect that people have, but when you do your open water, you are already taught what to do if you have this problem. That is the purpose of a training. You should know anything can happen, but we teach you a way, or PADI have a way that is written that, okay, if you have this problem, you should be doing like this. But follow the safety measure, like doing a body check before a dive. Important things should not be missed out. So do the training, read the book, and study. You have to understand what's going on inside your body.
And even so it's so what you're saying is it's not the same for everyone. Basically, it can be different bodies reacting to differently. And also, I've also heard, I don't know it's a myth or a fact, but also the color disappears slowly, first the red and then the yellow, then the orange. Is it true?
It's true. Probably the one of the first colors to lose is red. You can see this maybe when you go diving with your bare eyes without any light, you can see that it's not so colorful. But if you look at the social media footages that some divers put in, you are thinking, wow, this is so colorful. That's simply because they are using a lot of light to take that picture. With your bare eyes, you won't be able to. So if you are diving even daytime, if you take a light with you, you can really see the natural colors in there. Yes, because the light is absorbed into the water, so the deeper you go, you have less light, so it's losing the colors. That is how it works.
Yeah, and like as said that Maldives being covering 99% of the water and just 1% of the earth. So, I feel the divers are exploring something that is more unknown than the space. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, why not? I think you have better things to see down there than the space, And our islands are formed in a way that every island is protected with a reef, and a slight damage to this reef will wash the whole island off. So this simple, it's not rocket science. Every student should know this. Why we should not damage the reef? You have to say this is the cover of our island. And when you do these kind of things to this cover, the island is gone. So that is how I teach. I try to make it simple. I'm not an environmentalist in that way, but common sense is also there. So we try to teach children the importance of protecting the reef. That is how it should be. Let them go into the water more at a young age.
So basically, talking about the ocean and protecting the ocean, so it can't speak, right? It can just behave and it can just show us that they're not liking it. So if there would be one thing when ocean would speak or accuse us of, what it would be?
I think we are disrespectful to them, maybe. Probably it's we should respect, I think, the ocean. We can't change things. We can't play with the nature. That's what I say. Don't play with the nature. You change something with the nature, it will come back to you. It's simple. We think we are very strong and can fight a current. We can't. If a current is really there is no way. But we have to find a way how to manage in that current. We can't fight a current because this is too strong. It's way beyond us. So don't play with the nature. Now what with the reclamation also, they are sometimes blocking some areas, so the flow of the current is changing. And this is going to damage a lot of things. You can hear island erosion. It's all related to one another. If you dredge, make a hole here, it's common sense that from somewhere the sand will come to fill it up. So
So did you ever had a bad current flow which you have to
some
really?
I like current, but I have had not bad. I mean, sometimes I have very weak divers who can't fight a current, and sometimes we have to really help each other out. Yes, there have been bad strong current experiences, but personally, I like strong current because strong current brings bigger animals, and I'm a fan of sharks. But I like to see sharks in the wild. I don't like to see the feeding sharks, but I like to see the dives in the channels where there is flow and then the sharks. That is something, and you need to have experience to see this kind of dive. So yes, sometimes yes.
Also, I have heard that, or maybe I have read somewhere that divers become more spiritual and attentive underwater. Do you agree with that?
I say, as a joke, I even say to people that we should change the dive center name for Moodhubulha Dive Center and Spa. It's because I think diving itself is a therapy. Because especially for now, because you hear always things, and when you're at the surface, it's always loud and you don't get the time for mind to rest. But if you are doing a good dive, you are in a place comfortably going with the flow of the current. You don't hear all these sounds. It is spiritual because you are without your phone and you are enjoying the moment. So that, I think that is why people say it's spiritual. I think it's a very relaxing sport, very social sport, a sport that is very healthy for you as well because you're actually exercising, you are out in the ocean in the sun. We go in the water every day 2-3 times. Rarely we do get colds and stuff because we spend so much time and we get vitamins D. You are out there. It's a very less expensive sport as well in a way. So it is therapeutic.
True.
Yeah.
So if you would advise anyone who's looking over this podcast and they have to prepare a scuba diving kit, must have, what would you suggest them to have in that kit?
I would say choose something simple. Don't buy the most expensive gear. I dive with the cheapest gear. The best gear is the gear you are comfortable with. Maybe you have a mask, maybe doesn't even have a brand, but it might be the most comfortable mask for you. So choose always the gear that is fit and comfortable for you. Don't try to go for this fancy gear. Sometimes they might look good, but maybe it might be more complicated. So choose something that is simple design, easy to maintain. So these are the things I would look for. That's why when I wear gear, I choose the simple one.
So have you ever, do you go to snorkeling as well?
I do go snorkeling, especially with my children. We go snorkeling, and my husband is also a free diver. He teaches free diving. Nowadays, free diving is becoming very popular. It's also a sport you have to be trained because you hear many accidents about free divers, not trained, and they try to push themselves to the limits. Free diving is I think it's trending very strong now. But if you are going to do free diving also, get the right training, get the right license, and then go for it.
So what's if anybody from even a foreign country wants to come to you and do the diving course, they can come and they can just do the course, right?
Yes, open water course take basically 3 days. It's not that much of a time. And price wise, I would say this is more affordable for all the courses. You can compare the prices. Once you are interested, just send us a message and we can send the rates. And then it's 3 morning. Willingili is a nice place to stay as well. If you compare Moodhubulha and Willingili, you get to snorkel from the beach, and then do the dive course. And if you want to go diving, you can do diving. So it's very easy. And from our dive center, you can actually learn from very basic up to instructor level. So that is very easy.
So you can become an instructor as well.
I like to actually promote education tourism. I think it's great. For example, India and us, we are very close to each other. And for example, Maldives is a great place for college students to come and become dive professionals, for example. So I like to tell, and maybe on the other way, India might have something that we need to go and learn from them. So there can be this kind of education tourism. We go to your place to learn something, and they come here, spend 2 months to learn dive and become dive professional. And dive professional doesn't mean you have to always work as an instructor. It opens doors to many things. For example, it opens door to work in the marine industry. You can become just a photographer. You can become a marine biologist. There are many things you can do with the marine license. You can work, have an NGO or work in the coral planting, I don't know, environment things. So it's not only about becoming a diving instructor. It opens the door to many other possibilities as well, I think.
Okay. I want to cut. So digging deep into the water and digging deep into the ocean, I want to ask, what is the longest time you have spent underwater?
Longest. I remember it's about 2 hours at 2 meters. Okay, it's because one of those photographers, he was a very famous photographer from National Geographic Channel, and I was supposed to be his buddy.
Okay.
And I think probably that's a very boring dive for me, because I wasn't a photographer myself. My job was just to simply stay with him. So imagine I'm at 2 meters and this photographer is taking a photo of a shrimp coming out of a hole, and we are lying on the sand for almost in 2-3 meters for 2 hours. And I was, it was getting cold, it was boring. But after that, I saw that picture he took, and I thought it was worth it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you ever had like meal underwater, or do you ever get hungry underwater? Does it happen?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think you should try to have those things, because what if you choked it underwater? You should not do those kind of attempts. So I don't even encourage them. But I had a very funny experience once. I was teaching regulator recovery. She was doing her dive master with me. She's a American citizen. Pam is her name. And she has false teeth. And when she took the regulator, she had to demonstrate this skill. So when she took the regulator, her whole teeth was on the regulator. And she was laughing so much that the teeth fell. And then we had to go up, and it was just a funny experience. She was doing her dive master level. And we didn't expect that, Then I had to go and find her teeth, So that was a funny experience for me. And once one guy came with a very young girl, He didn't tell me he's wearing a wig, So he had the mask on, and when I'm doing DST, I'm normally keeping the guest in front of me, and I'm swimming backward. So I see a bubble getting inside the hair here, then it started to lift. This part started to lift, and I thought, oh God, this guy is wearing false hair. And I don't think the girl knew about it. So the wig kind of came off as he was taking off the mask. So it was a funny experience. But it was not a bad experience, it was just very, very funny.
So you had some laughs under the ocean?
Yeah, I was laughing so hard that day. Yeah.
So, there has been any incidents where any of the client cried under ocean? Or you cried under ocean?
One, it was not a bad, maybe you have heard of triggerfish.
Yeah.
It's called Titan triggerfish. Their nest season, during their nesting season, we should not get anywhere close to them, because they are protecting their eggs. And the area, they will be always running around, swimming around that area. And I had this Japanese guest. She didn't know about this, and she thought she wanted to take a picture of this triggerfish. So she was getting close, and then the triggerfish came immediately to protect, and it bit off her nose from here and took part of the nose and left. It was so quick, tuck and then gone. These triggerfish have very sharp teeth, and sometimes they chase you around bed. They are sometimes worse than sharks, But we know it. We can see when they are nesting. But the guest did not know it, so she went a bit too close for it. Then I saw her crying, we had to bring her up, and it was bleeding from here. But, well, she also did her mistake without knowing, so that was the experience.
Yeah, so talking about the triggerfish, I remember about one experience that people talk about is shark snorkeling in the Maldives. So do you think people should do that, or is it safe doing the shark snorkeling?
I don't know. Some guest houses, they do. What they do is they take you to the nurse sharks, and it's, how to say, it's a very popular activity now. So I hope they are doing it safely. Whoever is doing it, yeah. We don't do that, but I think many islands do that. I've seen this drone picture with the person in the middle of the sharks,
true.
right?
I'm talking about the same thing, and even I wanted to do it, but I was like, no, I can't do it because I've heard somewhere that even if they smell a little wound in your body, they can travel from like 5 kilometers
Yeah.
far, and they can. Is it true?
They can smell it. They say sharks can even feel your heartbeat when you're scared. They can feel you. It seems.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're very smart.
Mindfully,
Yeah.
So when you train divers, what is the biggest mistake in the mind they get it, or mindset which is not right that they usually have it?
The thing is, sometimes even with very little experience, they are sometimes thinking they're becoming overconfident. When somebody is very overconfident, I have seen dive master level people, jumping into the water with the tank closed, not doing a body check. When you, even at my level, I will always double check my gear. I will make sure that everything is functioning, and I will double check my guest gear as well. So we should not rush with things. We also have to remember it's a buddy sport. You should have a second person 2 seconds away from you. There are rules like this. You have to follow these rules, and you must do a body check before you enter the water. So if you are not following these rules, and if you are not reading and with the changing market, you also have to have the right knowledge. You have to read a little bit. You have to stay current with the changes. That is important as a diver, I think.
So, talking about the sharks and talking about the tiniest to the biggest creatures, I want to ask you one thing that has there been any time where you went inside the ocean, you saw something and you thought we failed as humans?
No, I don't think I felt that. But every time I see something that unique, I think of God actually. I think how creative is God. Even not a big thing. If you look at the pattern of a fish, you can it always brings how creative this nature is. God has sent this. Every fish have a different pattern. Young, when they grow up, they are changing. So all these things remind me of the nature. I think how great the nature is, how great the God is actually.
Yeah, true. It's truly beautiful. Even I remember when I snorkel for the first time, seeing the world with a greater, prospect, or seeing Maldives with a different perspective actually after going underwater was something that I realized. And also, it can be weird for you to hear, but do you think people who are going underwater are seeing death closer, or they are more, aware of the death than the people who are on earth?
You mean closer to the fish? Or?
Yeah. The fear, basically,
That you have to break this fear. Yeah, there is this movie, Indian movie. I remember some guest come and say they are doing the dive after seeing this movie. Zindagi na milegi dobara.
It's a very famous movie, and that has created a bucket list for all the audiences out there. Yeah.
I remember there were 3 middle-aged ladies from India. They were all above 60, and those 3 came to our dive center, and they said they have seen this movie, and they are traveling around the world, and they want to do a dive. And they did the dive, and they really enjoyed this the dive. They told us about this movie, and I have seen it now.
It's everyone's favorite, and they have some bucket list to fulfill, and they do it. And one of them is scuba diving. So it's wonderful.
It's possible to do a dive. You have to understand it's not dangerous. It's not scary. You can do it very safely. That's what you have to understand.
Talking about the tiniest creatures, I remember about humans, kids, and what is the minimum age they can learn swimming? They can go underwater.
Well, they can go underwater with 8 years. 8 to 9 years can do a program called Bubble Maker.
Okay.
And that is a mini dive where they have a small tank, BCD regulator, and they do a dive to a maximum depth of 2 meters.
Okay.
2 meters, and for them it's a proper dive. And this, with the kids, if you look at them, there are specific depth limits, and we have to respect those. Some don't, but I strictly say you have to respect those depth limits, because these depth limits are brought in based on the growth of the child. I will not take my child to beyond the, even though they are very good in the water, I will strictly stick to the depth limits PADI have put in, because they have done a lot of research to put in these depth limits. And it's also related to the brain, how much they think. For example, this 2 meter depth for a young kid is probably every 1 second. When we take them, we know they every 2-3 seconds they will say like this, they want to go up because they want to talk or say something. So that's why they have put a margin there where they can come up easily,
True.
But at the same time, they enjoy a dive. So it's,
Yeah. True. So even the minimum age for swimming and diving both are same?
Swimming actually is not part of our activity. But I would say if you are really going to learn diving, in Maldives also there are very good swim classes in the trek as well. So if you are an expert, if you are working in the Maldives, there are classes ongoing in the evening time, just for, you can go 3 nights for 45 minutes, and then you can learn swimming. And this makes you more comfortable and confident in the water if you are really planning to learn about diving. But if you want to just experience one dive, it's okay. You don't have to do any swimming or anything, but swimming is a life skill. And it's something, even myself, last year I joined a swimming class, not because I can't swim, but I wanted to learn the right strokes, because our daughters are swimmers. So I saw them swimming and I thought how nice and fluid they are in the water. So I wanted to become like them. So I joined a swim class and I went there, and the coaches were great. They taught us. I mean, we have been swimming, we get tired very quickly because we are using the wrong stroke. But when you really learn the swimming, it makes it so easy. You can, spend hours in the water without getting tired. So swimming classes, I highly recommend if you are in the Maldives and if you have the opportunity. It also, refreshes your mind and makes you more confident person, actually.
So is it a myth or a fact that people say if you learn swimming in the childhood, then it's easy for you, but when you learn it in your adulthood, it's pretty hard for you?
Adulthood, the problem is you have too many things going in your head. I tell when they bring kids also, parents don't come with them, because they are like, oh, don't go in the water, don't do this, don't do that. But they are with us, the kids, we will look after them. Parents are afraid of an unknown thing. So from Moodhubulha, when we did some programs just for the mothers to come and snorkel with us.
Okay.
So in Willingili, we have invited the mothers of the schools in Muhyiddin to come and do a snorkeling session. The 40 moms came in and they were really happy with what they saw. And after that, they are not hesitant to send their kids to us, because now they know it's a safe thing. Before, they are afraid of something unknown.
That makes me a sentence I have heard of one of your interviews, I think, or you have said wonderfully that, not earth, but ocean is the safest playground. They should not be
Yes.
watching the screen and mobiles and
Yes.
running in the playground, but actually they should go under water and be safe.
Yes.
It's true.
I was pleased, actually. One of my best achievement was winning the Ocean Awards among the 5 around the world. So I always say ocean should be our playground. Especially for our kids. For a Maldivian kid, ocean should be the playground. We should be swimming before we walk.
Yeah. Truly. And you have truly given a recognized, platform to the Maldives being the attractive excursion, but what you have taken is totally into a different angle. So let's flip the narrative now and, talking about where you are today. People very easily say that, oh, Zuna is in this place and she's, earning so well, or maybe she has set up so well. But do you think they're applauding you without knowing the cost you have been through?
Yeah, I think nowadays, especially younger children, when they finish school, they always want to start something of their own and then, be an entrepreneur. But what I have to say is, it took me almost 23 years to start something by myself. It took me 23 years, yeah. When I was working in the resort, I was earning and saving. And I'm pleased to say that we opened the dive center without a loan. And this I want to tell that because I want to encourage the youth to do this. Without a loan, with my savings, we managed to open a very small center with just 6 kits, 6 BCDs. But now we can cater up to 40 divers at the same time. But we opened the center only with 6 kits to start. Kit means 6 set of equipment. We started the center, and some of good friends, lent some things to us. But we started this small business in 2016. But now we are pleased to say that we are a 5-star instructor development center with more than 40 divers can dive from this same dive center now. And obviously, maybe we are not earning that much money compared to a resort or anything, but we are very happy, we are very satisfied with what we are doing, because we are doing something for the community, something for the others. Maybe if I go to the resort and start to earn money, I would earn more money, but that satisfaction will not be there. So I would rather stay here, be with my family, teach our locals, and open the door for those who cannot afford to do so.
And you're truly doing it wonderfully, I must say. So, ending this conversation with, if you want to once for all, delete or eliminate the myth people think, like, a lie about the ocean, which is actually not a lie, what would you tell them?
Well, ocean is a very safe place, and if you are thinking about starting of something on your own, don't compare yourself to others. You are unique.
So if there's any woman around there who's just, seeing this podcast right now, or any girl who want to be in your position where you are today, what advice would you give to them?
My advice is, I'm a very normal human being. I come from a very small family. If I can do this, you can do this.
Truly a grateful conversation, and very motivating. A lot of goosebumps throughout the interaction. And I would say, you have truly taken me to a scuba dive ride, which was seeing so many colors, so many colors of thoughts, so many mindful conversations which I got to learn. And truly I feel very motivated, very powerful after this conversation, and I am sure that even the audience will. And you didn't just dive yourself, you opened the doors for women, for Maldivians, for foreigners, and for people out there, and told them that safe place is not just the earth, but somewhere it is beneath it as well. So thank you so much for the wonderful conversation and your time.
Thank you very much for this lovely opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.